All right, it says I'm live. Hi. Let's make sure it's working. Here we go. Yeah. Awesome. Uh-oh. Whoa. All my stuff is playing. Sorry. All right, here we go. We got 2 viewers. Okay, hello. Oh, I wanted to turn on some music. See if this works. Let's see how loud. I don't want it that loud. Let's go. All right. Welcome to the live stream, everybody. Sorry, I'm a little discombobulated. I think the spirits didn't want me to prepare for this one. I thought I was going to have all day. I just released a new video yesterday. I was so excited to get it out. You know, videos take me a while because I'm just starting out this process of being a YouTuber and creating videos. So it takes me a while to edit, and I've got a little perfectionism in me. And you see, I look at the people I'm competing with, other YouTubers, the people I'm trying to learn from, and their videos are just so polished. They're beautiful. Like they said everything perfectly. They never stumble over their words. And here I am struggling to get a 15-minute video out each week, just based on my own abilities. It takes me like several days to do a short-ish video. It took me 2 weeks to make the I got a painting falling off the wall. Feels like everything's kind of falling apart here, but hey, it's fine. Yale says sometimes less preparation is better when you speak from the heart. Yeah, I mean that's kind of the point of these live streams. It's actually funny. I've studied a ton of stuff about how to do long form videos. That's when I thought about doing YouTube. That's really what I was thinking about doing. It's the long form videos, polishing them, making them look great, delivering the information that I want to deliver. Um, and then I was like, I also want to do live streams because live streams are super fun. I mean, I want to interact with people. That's really the whole point of the way of service. As I say over and over, it's about relationships. And for me, it's about helping people. So, and like helping real people like, directly. So I want to talk to real people, which is kind of frustrating when you're making YouTube long form videos. You're talking to people, but you're talking to them indirectly, and then hopefully they comment on the videos and comment here if you. Oh yeah, it's real live. It's real viewer. Well, if you're watching the replay, you can comment because then I know somebody actually watched it and enjoyed it. You see the views, but you don't know if you enjoyed it. I mean, if you get a like, you hope that they enjoyed it, but it's not the direct experience that I want, and that's why I'm doing the live streams. But I've done no research on how to do a live stream well, other than I know that I need to have good camera and lighting. I do have brand new lighting right now, so hopefully you noticed that, or new setup for that. I bought a brand new microphone. I was really excited about it. I had the whole boom arm and everything, and it broke immediately. It immediately didn't work. Chinese manufacturer, what it is. It's definitely a pet peeve of mine. You buy something for like $100, $200, and there's a tiny little piece of plastic that breaks, and now it just doesn't work. So, oh, sound is a bit rough. Okay, thank you for letting me know. Yeah, that's why I got the new microphone, and I was so excited about it. I was thinking about it all week. Let me see. Try to improve sound. Oh, that's why. Yeah, great. I had changed those settings, but somehow the settings didn't save. So that's what happened there. Live streaming is what happens. Goofy stuff. Is the sound better now? Tell me if it improved. I'm gonna turn the music down a little bit more. So yeah. All right. Well, so like I said, I didn't really get to prepare much, and I also was mentioning I was trying to tell the story. Okay, great. Sounds better. Um, I was trying to tell the story about I don't have any. I've done no research on live streams, like, how to do them right and what you should be focused on, and what makes a live stream different from a long form video, all these things. So I'm just doing them. I don't know. I'm just talking. I'm just here to talk. And like Gil said, I it's unfiltered, right? I'm not editing these, so that's nice. I get to put out, an hour and a half of content without editing. That's another great benefit of live streaming. So I better do a good job. Let's see. So it's been working for me is going through my book collection, talking about some of my favorite books, reading some quotes from the books. It's been working pretty well. I've enjoyed these live streams doing this. I wanted to mix it up, but I didn't really have. I wanted to come up with something, some cool ideas to talk about. I have a ton of ideas that I'm going to put into my videos, but I don't want to just start digging into my notes on live on the stream. So why don't we look at the I Ching reading I got today? Because I did an I Ching reading. I guess I can tell you a little bit more about where my head was at. Like I said, I released. I guess it's my fourth long form video that's unique content. It's called can we prove the purpose of life? And spoiler alert, I think we can. And in that video, I try to do that in about 17 minutes. I think it's great. I really enjoyed putting it together. I was a little nervous to release it because it's kind of my first video where I'm like giving an opinion that's kind of out there. And I know that's what I'm supposed to do. And I mean, that's what this is all about. I don't want to come on YouTube and say the same stuff that other people are saying. But it's a little nerve wracking, it's the first time that I released a video and I was kind of like, oh, okay, I guess I'm going to say this to the world and see what happens. And so that video is now live. It's public, and I hope you check it out. Finish watching the live stream, of course. Don't check it out yet. I also released a short related to that, and the shorts, that's another thing I read online. They were like, don't do shorts and long form. You got to do one or the other. But the thing about the shorts is I make a long form video and I can make a short out of it or 3 or 4 shorts out of it, which I did with the elements video. I can do it in like a tenth of the time. And then YouTube actually gives you a lot of views on your shorts, which is great. It's great exposure. It's frustrating to see the long form videos get way less exposure. But I don't know. I've watched a lot of, I guess, YouTubers who talk about being a YouTuber. There's a ton of those out there. Because if you're a YouTuber, where do you go to learn stuff? You go to YouTube, right? And I don't know. I think I mentioned this on another stream, but YouTube is basically destroying the traditional education system. Like basically, because of YouTube, college, high school, maybe even primary school is just irrelevant. It's useless now, which is great. I am more than ecstatic about that development. But most people have not adapted to this reality, right? But I believe that we should adapt and embrace it because I think it's fantastic. The education system has been an absolute disaster, right? For I don't know, 100 years, whatever it's been at least 3 or 4 generations, which is terrifying, right? Which is probably why things are kind of in not a great state, IQs have been dropping, math and reading scores are dropping and dropping. I don't know if YouTube's going to fix that, right? I hope that it does. I hope that people realize that they can accomplish great things earlier in life. I think that we waste so many years of people's lives in the education system, as I mentioned. I mean, it's just so tragic that people, it's like from 5 years old until 18 years old, or nowadays it's even more. It's like 5 years old until 30 years old. People waste the prime of their life when they're young and energetic and malleable and can learn quickly and can adapt. And they're stuffing themselves into this box of traditional education. And I'm sure if anybody's watching who's still in that system, it's I'd love for you to comment, and also uh, how much do you use YouTube to do your schoolwork, right? How much do you use YouTube to figure stuff and the internet, right? Like, I mean, everything's on the internet. Even classes they understand that you're going to use the internet for everything, but just accepting that the idea of like a piece of paper being given for a degree, letters next to your name, that doesn't really tell you much. I mean, it tells you that the person went to the school. And there's, I mean, let me, you know, give some credit where it's due, right? Devoting your time to learning something and showing that you devoted your time to learning something is not totally useless, right? But if people are able to, develop experience, like I've said, when I started a business, I realized I learned something new every day, if not every hour, right? When you're in the business world and when you're running a business, if you're working, maybe you learn something every day or at least every week or, every few days. But in school, it's like you learn something every month sometimes. I mean, and then you forget it because it's not being applied. So I just feel like it's far more efficient to learn things by doing them. Hey, Rackham Willie, welcome to the channel. Welcome to the live stream. And also, anybody who's watching live, I am prioritizing you. Anybody who watches live, you are getting all of my attention. So if you want to talk about anything, you could like mention something that's happened in your life, or you want to ask a random question. I said that this is an Ask Me Anything question and answer. So yeah, please get in the chat, ask your question, bring up your topic, and I will talk about that, because right now I'm just riffing on what's going on in my life and what's going on with the channel. He's thinking. Good. Okay. All right. Good to hear. Yeah. So I was just saying that it's so much more efficient to learn things when you're applying them to your life, when you're doing something you're excited about. That's kind of what my whole channel's about. My Don't Work Hard video is about that idea that you're going to, if you can avoid working, the way that you avoid working is by doing things you love. It doesn't mean not doing anything, right? Like, I'm kind of being facetious with that. I'm not saying you don't work, as in you never apply force to objects and move them. That's the physics definition of work. But I'm saying you never are doing something that you're like, oh, I don't want to work on that. You're like, the word work, it's almost like the word work inside of our brain means we have to like force something in our brain or in our person to do that thing. That's what I think we should avoid if we can. And it's obviously easier said than done. I will totally admit that. But, if you're doing things that you're excited about, that's the way that you're going to really learn the skill. That's why YouTube is amazing. Everybody's got YouTube on their phone or, the internet. And it's like you're doing something, you just ask the internet right there to help you on the thing that you're stuck on. And then you can keep going. So yeah, there's my rant on the modern education system. Let me know in the comments what you think. I mean, I don't know if there's anybody who can argue. Nobody's arguing in favor of the current education system, right? I mean, I think most people think that we need some sort of formal education so that you can say, it's almost like regulation on knowing that somebody has learned something. Because if you meet somebody and they come in for a job interview and they never went to any schooling of any kind, it's going to be a little harder, right? And that's like the whole point of the education system, is to create workers. If you don't know the history of the education system, you can look into, I think it's the Prussian model or something like that. But it was designed in the Industrial Revolution to create people who would go to the factory and like pull the lever every 5 seconds or whatever it is that they had to do. Rackham says, I'm driving home from work. I'll join when I get there. Cool. Yeah. So the education system is not designed for you. It's designed for corporations. It's designed for the government. It's designed for the establishment that wants to be able to sort you and know what you are, and without spending any time getting to know you, right? And I'm sure you can guess that the way of my perspective, the way of service, is not the way to do it, and it doesn't work anyways. If you're going to hire somebody, they're going to be a huge part of your company. You got to get to know them, and so the best thing to do is to be efficient about getting to know them, as opposed to trying to avoid it. And I guess what they're doing, they're filtering out people before they hire them, right? And that's a big challenge. And I mean, I feel like the best way to handle that is to, say a prayer, let synchronicity, let the universe bring the right candidate to you, and let your instinct be your guide, right? As opposed to trying to have some computer or some like harsh filtering system. Because I think most people who have tried to search for jobs have met with a lot of frustration and disappointment because, they're not given a chance, and they should be given a chance, right? So that's certainly an issue in the current world. Um, so yeah, I guess let's see what else should we talk about? I feel like that was a pretty good rant. We've got 2 live viewers. We got a like. You hit the like button if you're enjoying this at all. I'm going to talk a little bit about the reading. So that's how I got into this whole discussion. I'll often ask the I Ching question early in the day as part of my daily meditation. Usually, just like asking, what is your advice for today? Or if there's something specifically on my mind, I'll ask, like, what should I do? What should I focus on in order for this thing to resolve or to progress in the way that I want, right? And so today, my biggest, Yale says, half asleep, I had the best question for you to ask the I Ching, but now it's gone like a dream. Yeah, I know that feeling, man. I know. It's funny. Ever since I started this channel, I have a lot of ideas, and so I constantly am like reaching for it. I'll be in a conversation, and I'll like reach for my phone. I'm like, I'm not being rude. I just want to write down a note from our conversation so I can remember to talk about it at some point. And then, sleeping, you have these great dreams, and if you don't write them down, so what has happened to me is I wake up and I'm like wide awake in the middle of the night, and it's like I can't get back to sleep for an hour or 2 hours. Sometimes it's usually 3 a.m. That's like the magic hour. I have some stories about that. Like I woke up at 3 a.m. If you've ever seen Breaking Bad, there's this fantastic speech that he gives about what he's like, you're lying awake and it's 3 a.m. and you're afraid, and that fear is the real enemy. It's just this fantastic speech. And so I was in Las Vegas on a poker trip, and this trip was like crazy. The numbers were lining up constantly. Like I've got a poker buddy, and he and I will text each other at 444 because we will both see 444 all the time. And every time I text him, he sends me a picture of like a license plate or a clock or like a thermometer or whatever, battery, just 444, just 444 everywhere. Right. And this was happening in Vegas. So I woke up and it was like 2:57 or whatever. I had to go to the bathroom, and I was on my phone in the bathroom, and I was just scrolling through Telegram, and somebody had posted this video, and he said that quote, "You're lying awake at 3 a.m." And it was exactly 3 a.m. when he said that on the video. And I discovered this, and it's so good. It's just such a good, and there's like these remixes on YouTube of this quote from Breaking Bad. I think if you search like Breaking Bad fear speech or something, you'll find it. It's so good. And that trip was amazing. I was responding to, so it's good to have a notepad. It's like I don't really know the best way to handle this, right? Like I have a wife, so I can't, like if you live alone, maybe the best thing to do, so you don't turn anything on or something, you have like a recorder next to your bed and you just talk to it. Maybe I'll do that. I'll just like whisper into it, and then I don't have to, because one of the worst things is turning on a light, turning on your phone light. I actually just got these I don't know if I have them, but I just got some blue light sunglasses. Pretty excited about them because as soon as I put them on, I can feel the difference, right? If you're not familiar with the problem with blue light, especially after sundown, it really screws with your circadian rhythm and makes it harder to sleep. It throws off your hormones. It does, basically everything that sleep does for you, blue light does the opposite. Okay. So if you haven't heard of this, you can buy blue light filter glasses. And my buddy Ryan actually he showed me his, and I was jealous, so I bought some. And I'm really excited. They just came today, along with my brand new lighting and my brand new microphone, which broke immediately upon being plugged in. All right, so let's see. Yale says, I think a huge issue with education is we are trying to do it on too large of a scale. Yeah, yeah, totally. I mean, yeah, that's like a different topic, right? It's like, what can you do on a large scale? It's almost like there's so many things you can't do on a large scale, but then there's other things that have to be done on a large scale, and we all take them for granted, right? I mean, like I was just complaining about something I got, and it came from China. I mean, there's no way that would happen without a large scale transportation network, right? Um, but yeah, I agree with you. Like education, this is a big thing for my family because we are planning on homeschooling our children because of the state of the education system being so bad. I mean, I wish it was good, but um, I think when it comes to care for your children, right, like the way of service, especially as a parent, that's something, when I was first conceptualizing the way of service, I was asking the I Ching a few questions. And one thing it told me was to remember talking about parenting. And I haven't talked about it a whole lot, but I should. And, parenting is something that shouldn't be outsourced. I really feel like that's been probably one of the biggest problems that's happened in the last 100 years, and as a part of the education system, it's almost like it's like glorified babysitting, you know. Um, yeah, exactly, Yale. Yeah, but in terms of communities and raising our children, exactly. Yeah. So yeah, I was just trying to go through that in my head. There's some things we have to do on a large scale, and then there's some things that obviously shouldn't be done on a large scale, like parenting. I mean, parenting is like the perfect example of something that has to be done on a small scale, and it like always fails. I mean, you can look at all the data about children in daycare and stuff like that. It's just like when parenting is outsourced, it doesn't benefit anyone. It doesn't even benefit the person who's usually the person is putting their kid in daycare to go work. And, if you're a single parent, that's probably the only answer. But ideally, you have one member of the family who earns the money, and then the other person can be the primary caregiver to the children, because outsourcing, parenting and childcare is very expensive and it's not effective, right? Um, so yeah, I think that's a good baseline for wondering, what things can we do on a large scale as a society, and what things can we not do on a large scale. And I think that the more something requires care and individual attention, relationships, all the stuff I talk about with the way of service, that stuff really shouldn't be large scaled. And if it is large scaled, I'm thinking of like what are things where there's like the medical system. I mean, the medical system is another example of something that's in really bad shape, but there's some great nurses and doctors out there. They do great work. Like you can still get good medical care, but there's these big corporations, these big hospitals making decisions based on profit and not based on relationships with patients. And that's where we see a lot of really tragic things happening, and a lot of people get really upset about what happens in those situations, right? But yeah, these are all tough questions, and I'm not going to pretend that I have all the answers. But parenting is definitely one of them that I definitely think that as a society and as individuals, we should do our best to get closer to our children, be closer to their needs, and not try to just outsource and outsource and outsource that part. And the result of that is the modern education system, as I was talking about earlier. The result of outsourcing parenting is this education system. And another thing that, Yale, you said we're trying to do it on too large of a scale. That phrasing, too large of a scale, can be applied to a lot of different things. For example, I think like the education system it's on too large of a scale, as in like there's a national education standard or whatever, but there's also like too large of a scale in terms of a child's time. Like they spend so much time at the school. It's like this glorified, babysitting. And, maybe they would do a lot better if it was more specific, and that each child was put into the topic that they're interested in earlier, instead of just a general, you don't get into like different topics until middle school. I think sixth grade, at least in the United States. So sixth grade is like 11 years old, right? So the first half of education is just general education with one teacher. It's like one teacher and then like 20, 30 students all day just in a room. That's not good. That seems pretty bad. And there's so many other ways to do it. And, again, I'm not going to try to say I know how to do it, but I think one of the great things about life and about reality is that things tend to work out, right? Everybody's working on these problems. Either they're working on them in their own lives, and then it kind of spreads to their sphere of influence, or they're actually working on them in the big scale. I think, like I said, nobody's defending the old education system. I think it's on the way out, and it's already been replaced. I mean, it's been replaced by YouTube. Let's be honest. I mean, and every day that goes by, YouTube is growing, and the internet is growing, and other platforms where you can find information. It's just gonna annihilate the education system. Like it's over. I mean, it's not even worth talking about, to be honest with you. All right, I got some comments here. Thanks, guys, for chatting. I want to go through them. Rackham Willie says, scale destroys the intimacy. We are very emotionally based creatures. Right. Totally. Yeah. So that's a good word. And then Eleanor says, love the word intimacy applied to all these topics. Yeah. I totally agree. Thank you. Yeah, the word intimacy. So like if something requires intimacy, which I would say education does, in order to be a good teacher and to be a good student, like they have to have a relationship, right? So again, that word can be applied, intimacy and relationship. The more relationship that is needed, a patient and their doctor. These are all things where it's like, if you outsource it or scale it up, it's like, you can't just replace one doctor with the next and have them do the same job, right? Let's say you've had a doctor for 20 years of your life, and then they're like, oh, here's this other doctor. I can't help you anymore. I mean, it's not even the same. It's not going to be on the same level at all. Like not even close. Rackham says, I felt like I had the same English class from sixth grade on to graduation. Dunbar's number. Yale says, have you heard of Dunbar's number? I have not. But you got me all curious, man. I'm going to use this internet thing to look it up. Dunbar's number. Dunbar's number is a suggested cognitive limit to the number of people one can... Oh, yeah, I have heard of that. I didn't know it had a term. That's really cool. Dunbar's number, right. So it's a suggested cognitive limit to the number of people with whom one can maintain stable social relationships. Relationships in which an individual knows each person. And relationships in which an individual knows who each person is and how each person relates to every other person. Yeah, totally. I'm familiar with that. I think it's let's see what it says. I think it's around 50, right? Oh, it says 150, 150. Yeah, close enough, right? It has been proposed to lie between 100 and 250. So it's like beyond whatever you think the number is. Let's say it's 100. Once you know more than 100 people, your brain is no longer capable of really understanding what's going on with everybody. On the scale of 100 to 200, and I should mention, at least this is my understanding of it, comes from evolutionary biology, because that's the size of the hunter-gatherer nomadic tribes of humans that used to be together. So our brain evolved to understand the social dynamics of our tribe, but not to understand the social dynamics of like a town or of a city, because it's only in the last, I mean, who knows about alternative history? I could get into that sometime, Atlantis and ancient civilizations and all this. But theoretically, human beings, and I think this is true no matter what even if you go with the standard idea of history, or if you go with the alternative history, either way, human beings have not been in cities and settled for very long of their evolutionary lifetime, right? So let's say humans have been around for 1,000,000 years. Let's say very generously, they've been settling down for 50,000 years, right? So that's 5% of humanity's existence has been settling down. And the 95% of human existence has been as a nomadic tribe in these groups of, 50 to 250 people, I guess, is what this Wikipedia is saying to me. And so, yeah, outside of that number, yeah, 150 sounds like a lot. Exactly. Yeah, modern education, only a couple generation of people. Yeah, I'm such a big critic of modern education, but I haven't totally studied and know exactly all the details, right? So it'd be interesting, and also there's another effect. I'm sure it has a name now, right? All these different effects. I didn't know Dunbar's number was a number, but the effect of when you take something from the private sector and the government takes it over, there's a period where there's still competency, because the people who are now working for the government used to be working in private industry. So before there was like a national education system, basically, the educators existed, and then the government took over, and then all the educators started working for the government. And then after a generation, now all the new educators are always working for the government, and so their standards are like way down here, right? So even if the modern education system has been around for 3 generations, it's probably only really done damage to the last 2 generations, which sounds maybe right. I don't know. I'm debating whether or not I want to do a boomers video. I probably shouldn't, but save that for a different channel. But yeah, so that's all super interesting. Yeah, Dunbar's number. Very fascinating. Yale says, I think the level of general education is way down. Oh yeah. Yeah, by every measure. And there's all these statistics that they try to manipulate, and they can't even manipulate that one. I mean, modern education is like just totally a failure. Like I said earlier, reading and math scores are just plummeting. Reading, writing, and math. That's kind of like, those are the 3 big ones that you're supposed to learn in school. And all of the scores on those things are just plummeting. Bernardo Anderson, welcome to the stream. He says, new to your channel, curious what your afterlife beliefs are. That's funny, man, because I just did a video about that. Like, that's literally the video I just made. I just published it yesterday. Go watch that one. But I mean, since you're here, I will answer you. I think that there's a ton of evidence that the afterlife has a very specific properties, and that basically, and you can learn this from near-death experiences. That's where I learned a lot of this stuff, but also from interviews with people who remember past lives. So basically, the purpose of that video, and since, like I said, yeah, thank you. I'm glad you'll check it out. But since you're here, I will give you the synopsis. Um, yeah. So basically, the point of that video is that it has been proven what the afterlife is. Okay, there are so many interviews that go over what happens, and there's so many things that are identical in like thousands and thousands of interviews. Like literally one researcher did 3,000 past life examples, and he sought out the physical evidence of those past lives. I talk about this in the video, but it's just incredible. There's literally physical evidence, like even a person will have like a birthmark, and it's like a scar that the previous life had. And so he documented, like, here is the scar, here is the previous life interviews, or the evidence photographs or whatever. This guy was this guy, previous life. I mean, literally. And like I say in the video, I'm a scientist. This stuff all shocked me, right? And I've learned not to be shocked, right? Because there's so many things that we've been lied to, or that, I mean, lied to as in we've been told a non-truth, but maybe the person telling us didn't know that they were lying. They thought it was true, right? So there's all these falsehoods. I guess that's a better word. Falsehoods that have spread about all these different topics. But if you look into the research, there's things we can conclude, and there's things that are unavoidable if you're a real scientist, right? As I say in the video, let's see, pull up this quote. Yeah, the Lao Tzu quote, and I'll read the whole thing because it's such a good quote. A good traveler has no fixed plans and is not intent upon arriving. A good artist lets his intuition lead him wherever it wants. A good scientist has freed himself of concepts and keeps his mind open to what is. Freeing ourselves from concepts and keeping our mind open to what is. Can you do that today? Because that's the big one. There's so many people who, this is the first minute of my video. I'm like, I've always been a scientist, and I've always followed the evidence, and I've just been blown away by the people who don't. Like, it's like, man, there's evidence. Here it is. I don't want to see the evidence. It's like, or I'm going to dismiss it out of hand. I'm going to dismiss it for some emotional reason. Like, you don't have a good reason for dismissing this evidence. If you have a counter argument or you have another explanation, I want to hear it, because I want to be proven wrong. I want to follow where the evidence is taking me. Yes, Yale. Yeah, that's ego. Right. And we all have it, and we all have it on different topics. I'm sure I have it on things where I resist following the logical truth. The hardest things to follow the logical truth about are like our own flaws. What are the things that we're doing wrong, especially in our relationships. This is a big thing Yale says, or cognitive bias. What do you mean by that, cognitive bias? You expand on that a little bit. But yeah, that's like the way of service. That's the point of my work, is I realize, like, in order to do right by our relationships and by the people around us, we have to be able to work on ourselves and apply that same like scientific mindset to our own flaws and our own behavior, our own abilities. Because when we don't do that, we lose credibility with the people around us, and they just, then they have to just adapt to our dysfunction, and then you become codependent. People become used to each other's dysfunctions, and that's how you get all these stagnant relationships that are like sad, and that's why we have so many things in the world they've been the same forever and they're not working, right? That's another reason I created the way of service. I feel like there's so many things we could fix if we just realigned our priorities away from some egotistical, making money, getting famous, having power, towards, what is the best thing for everyone in this situation? How do we do that? And just be relentless about it. That's my idea of the way of service. I just feel like if we can just keep spreading this idea, more and more people adopt it, even the people who are maintaining power, they're holding on to power, right? Boomers, holding on to power for forever, and they're stuck in their ego. It's like eventually that wall will crumble. Eventually it's going to change. And because I believe we have multiple lives, we'll get to see it maybe in our next life. Maybe if it takes 100 years, that's okay, because I'll come back and I'll see it as my next life. Okay. So Yale says ego is kind of the same as cognitive bias. You are so tied to some idea you can't see otherwise. Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, because like the word ego, it kind of implies that somebody's like actively doing this thing. It's like, no, I'm going to hold on to my idea. But a cognitive bias is more like they just can't really see the thing. And I feel like that's probably more likely. But part of that, to me, that's solved through humility, right? Like if you realize that you don't really know anything, or like even the things that you think are true, like Lao Tzu said, like, can you keep your mind open to what is? A good scientist has freed himself of concepts and keeps his mind open to what is. Freeing yourself from concepts. We live in a world where basically any topic can be boiled down to something on like a third grade level. I mean, you can describe something on the level that a third grader will understand. You might not be able to get into the details or whatever, but what really stops people is freeing themselves from concepts. There's another quote. It's like, yeah, well, let's find it. Find the quote. It's a Lao Tzu quote, of course. Like I said, Lao Tzu is gonna appear. It's in the Tao Te Ching. All right. Yeah. So everything day something is dropped, right? That's what it was. Yeah. Okay. It's so good. Number 48. In the pursuit of knowledge, every day something is added. In the practice of the Tao, every day something is dropped. Less and less do you need to force things until finally you arrive at non-action. When nothing is done, nothing is left undone. True mastery can be gained by letting things go their own way. Can't be gained by interfering. It's so powerful, right? So that's a big part of my philosophy, the way of service, and I need to talk more about it because it's sort of let's see, what is this message retracted? You should have a deep dive course on the Tao Te Ching. I've read it, but I feel like there's more to it. Yes, I love it. I love the Tao Te Ching. I probably will do that. There's so many things I want to do, right? As I don't know if you caught the beginning of the live stream, but probably one of the big frustrations, and this is helpful for me to talk about and realize this, is that it takes me forever to get a 15-minute video out. And so I have all these ideas I want to share. So maybe I just need to do less editing, or I should do more writing, or I don't know. I need to mix it up, I think. So we'll see. So yeah, a deep dive on the Tao Te Ching. I'd love to do it. And I've been doing that on the live stream. I've been talking about the Tao Te Ching and the Wahoo Ching. If you haven't heard of the Wahoo Ching, Bernardo, this book, I just discovered this, Lao Tzu, Unknown Teachings of Lao Tzu, and it's better than the Tao Te Ching, which is mind-blowing, right? And the Tao Te Ching is probably better for beginners in this philosophy, but this book, especially once you get to the later pages, he says even a podcast or audio series would be great too. Yeah, I agree. But yeah, so once you get into the second half of this book, it starts to get pretty esoteric and very, very deep and into the weeds. Like there's a section in here that I never thought I would get from Lao Tzu. Okay, it's passage 55. He goes through all these different practices that you can do in order to, as he says, the holistic practices of the ancient masters integrate science, art, and personal spiritual development. Mind, body, and spirit participate in them equally, and they include all of these. And then I think there's actually another page to it. So you can read them if you pause. But I love that he mentions at the end of this passage, one of the most important for beginners is the study of the I Ching, which enables one to perceive the hidden influences in every situation and thus establish a balanced and spiritually evolved means of responding to them. That's what I started. I've started all these live streams with the I Ching, and that's what I did with this one. I didn't actually read it yet. I was just telling you about why I did a reading on the I Ching, and that got us into all these different topics. Bernardo says, that's awesome. Thanks. Yes, I'm so glad to help you. I'm so glad. Like I said earlier, I am doing this for the live stream viewers. I'm happy to have people watch the replay, and I'd love for you to comment there. But I am so excited to directly interact with people. So the people who are here now are getting my 100% of my attention. Eleanor says, totally do more on the Tao Te Ching. The single passages are beautiful, but it seems like when you have deep understanding of the whole work, you get more out of each individual passage. Yeah, I mean, I hope so. I definitely, I believe that's true. And I have read the Tao Te Ching over and over, probably way more than most people. So I have like a feeling of what each passage is about and how it connects to each other. So it's helpful. Ragam Willie says, way of service is spirit, way of ego is of flesh. Right. Yeah, totally. And I mentioned that in my elements video. The inverted pentagram versus the correctly oriented pentagram. The 5 elements being each corner of the pentagram. I wish I had some, I'm going to upgrade the live stream method so that I can share my screen and everything, and then I can show you the pictures that I'm talking about. But basically with the inverted pentagram, you have the 4 points, which are the earthly realm, and then you have spirit underneath it. And so that's like you're burying spirit below. You're basically seeking out demons and like of the earth, like below you, flesh. That's the pursuit of flesh. And then the correct orientation is spirit is above the 4 elements, and the 4 elements serve spirit above it, right? If you follow my logic, there is no better master than spirit. Right. Yeah, totally. Rackham says, I'm with Eleanor. Yale says, whenever it's natural, we can talk more about afterlife since Bernardo brought it up. I have something very affirming to say. Oh, yeah. Share. Yeah, totally. I don't overthink sharing. And this applies to everybody watching all of my videos. I love for you to comment. Nobody's made it to the end of my new video. It's only gotten like 5 views. Which is why I was like asking the chains, like, what do I do? Like, I just made a video and it's got like 2 views. Like, what do I do? But all these things work out, and the way of service, as I say in my work hard video, the 5 steps, the way of service versus the way of ego steps. The way of service is to love yourself and to share yourself. So share all of your ideas, share all of your comments and thoughts whenever they come to you. Especially in this format, and as you were saying, it's like if you don't share, this is another thing I realized. If you don't write something down when you have the thought, you're going to lose it. And that sucks. So write it down, or better, share it. That's the best way to write it down. I mean, we live in an age where you could just text a friend something and you wrote it down, but you shared it too. And now somebody else, they get to know that you were thinking about them. And there's just so many good things about sharing your thoughts versus keeping them inside, right? And then the way of ego is to deny yourself, right? It's to deny, and it's like to punish yourself also. Like you try to fit in and you're trying to like navigate the social situation, as opposed to just being yourself, yeah, hold on to that thought, bro. I mean, as I said, don't hold on to it, share it. All right. So I'm at the end of the chat for the moment. We got 3 viewers and 2 likes. Hit the like button if you haven't already. Bernardo says, the Kabbalion was my first step into spirituality. It made so sense to me and it was easy to read. Yeah, you talking about this? Yeah, I got it right here. We read it. We read it on the last live stream, and it was synchronicity. This is what I'm saying. If you have something to share, share it, because synchronicity makes these things work out. You know, that's one reason I'm not nervous about doing a live stream without preparation, because I know that synchronicity is going to make it work out. It's going to make it be a great live stream. Um, all right, so Yale says, I've been doing a deep dive on my Jewish roots. In this process, I have been looking into the Jewish view on heaven and hell, very different than the Christian one. Yeah, I'll be honest, I'm not familiar with what the Jewish view on heaven and hell is. I remember somebody telling me that they didn't have a view of it, but that doesn't seem right. That doesn't seem correct, right? Bernardo says, yep, I got the same copy. Yeah, awesome. Rackham Williams says, the Kabbalion has been a great part of my journey. Yeah, Rackham Willie actually shared the Kabbalion with me. So that was several months ago. And it is awesome. I love how straightforward it is. That's probably one of my favorite things about it. There's no beating around the bush. They're just like, this is it, and this is it, and this is what it means. And people who disagree are wrong. I love that. I love that candor and that ability to just tell it like it is without being ashamed at all, right? Yale says, it lines up well with the description you have given, and I find that affirming. Yale says, I'll share it, and I'm sorry for this word wall. I sent it to you via Discord if that's easy to read. Okay, cool. Yeah, I'll check it out. Yeah, I think there's so many, and I include some Wahoo Ching quotes in my Afterlife video. And basically, all these different spiritual traditions kind of point to the same ideas. That's another thing I believe is like, you might say that you're Jewish, you might say you're Christian, Muslim, Buddhist, Taoist. I'm like, maybe I'm a Taoist, but I don't want to ascribe to any particular one, because I think they all are pointing to the truth, and that's what we should be after, right? Is the truth. And I think we can know the truth. Like I say in my video, I think we're living in an incredible time where all this information is available. And I think I said it in my last live stream, we're living in the post-apocalyptic age. If Mark Passio is right, where the apocalypse was the time of the revealing. And so there's all these secrets that used to be hidden, and now they have been revealed. And the other side of that is that if you stay ignorant, that's your fault, because you have the ability to learn these things. So you don't really have the excuse of being ignorant. Being ignorant is your choice. Yale says it's foolish not to look at everything available. Yeah, exactly. Right. So in my experience, if you're afraid to look at something, it's because your current belief system is not solid, right? Like that would be the only reason you wouldn't be able to, as Lao Tzu says, free yourself of concept and keep your mind open. It's that fear of keeping your mind open that stops people from learning things. And it's like, if your current system is right, it can withstand all of the scrutiny. If your current concepts are correct, it doesn't matter what evidence you look at, it's going to conform with what you believe, because what you believe is true. And if what you believe is not true, wouldn't you rather not be wrong? I mean, as I said in my video, it's like people would rather die than admit they're wrong. I mean, it blows my mind, man. Mention in the comments if you have some explanation for this. Yale mentioned, it's the way of ego, it's cognitive bias, but there's got to be more to it, right? Like, what's going on? I need to know, because I feel like I saw a meme, and I sent this to Rackably. It's like, I have that disorder where I think people will be swayed by reason and evidence. It's a tweet that I saw. It's like, yeah, I have that disorder too. Most people just don't care about reason and evidence. Most people just go with their biases and stick with them forever. let's see. Looks like Yale and Rackham are having a discussion about Judaism. Yeah, I'd be interested to see what it says. You know, like Lao Tzu, I even put a quote at the end of my video, what Lao Tzu says about becoming immortal, but I believe that we are immortal, right? So I'm almost like I disagree with him in that, but he does say to experience absolute joy and freedom forever. Now that I can get behind, right? You might be immortal, like you have an immortal soul, but you're not always going to experience absolute joy and freedom unless you follow the, as he puts it, the integral way, which is to me is the same as the way of service, right? I mean, I'll just read this Wao Ching real quick, where he introduced the integral way, because he describes it exactly the same as the way of service, basically. Yeah. Number 2. Men and women who wish to be aware of the whole truth should adopt the practices of the integral way. These time-honored disciplines calm the mind and bring one into harmony with all things. The first practice is the practice of undiscriminating virtue. Take care of those who are deserving, also and equally. Take care of those who are not. I love that so much. When you extend your virtue in all directions without discriminating, your feet are firmly planted on the path that returns to the Tao. Yeah. Yeah. So that's the way of service, right? And that is how, as I say in the video, I'll read it because it's such a good quote, and I put it in a short today, but it's, I mean, like I put this quote to a video of Guilin China with a backdrop of music, and I like made myself cry when I listened to it back because it's such a good quote. It is entirely possible for you to achieve immortality and to experience absolute joy and freedom forever. The practice of undiscriminating virtue is the means to this end. Practicing kindness and selflessness, you naturally align your life with the integral way. Aligning your life with the integral way, you begin to eliminate the illusory boundaries between people and societies, between darkness and light, between life and death. Eliminating these illusions, you gain the company of the highest spiritual beings. In their company, you are protected from negative influences, and your life energy cannot be dissolved. Thus do you achieve immortality. So I guess now that I think about this quote again, he's not talking about your spirit, he's talking about your physical body. I think, and this has been like a Taoist pursuit. They call it the rainbow body. And I've actually read about a couple examples of it happening where a person doesn't die, they shoot off into the sky as a beam of light instead. Now, since we are spirit, it makes sense that you could do that, but it also just sounds totally unbelievable. And this is something for those of you who are interested in all these different books, right? There's the Wahoo Ching, there's the Kabbalion, there's the I Ching, there's the Tao Te Ching, and then there's Thoth's Emerald Tablets. And if you haven't read that, it's fantastic. You can find it for free online. And one of the things he mentions in there, because the Thoth is Hermes Trismegistus, who is the founder of Hermetic philosophy, right? Hermes. And Trismegistus, that word means thrice born. So, and his story in the Emerald Tablets is of dying and being reborn 3 times. Okay. And he was the king of Atlantis. I don't know. This is all, I'm kind of not totally familiar with all this, but I'm super interested in reading it. And the Emerald Tablets, I have read some of them or most of them. And this is something he talks about. So he talks about it being desirable to avoid the process of death, because I think there's like a chaos there, and kind of like a difficulty that maybe can be avoided if you attain a higher level of purity in your mind, body, and spirit. But I think that it's better to, and this is also what Lao Tzu basically says, it's like just practice virtue, right? Just do the way of service, do what you're supposed to do, and don't be afraid of death. Um, because I think the date of our death is preordained, and even if you die early, like watch my afterlife video, like there's thousands of pieces of evidence that death is not the end. Okay, so it's really not something to be afraid of. Um, not to say that you shouldn't just take care of yourself. I mean, obviously you should, and I want to live as long as possible because I believe that if I have a long life, it's because I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. I think people die early, their life is cut short either because that was their plan for their life ahead of time. And, this is getting into some of this stuff about like pre-life planning. And there's evidence in a lot of interviews about that happening. But also one reason you might die early is because you've lost your way in this life. And basically you need a reset. You need to get out because you're not going to do it in this life. You got that cognitive bias that's so bad. Sorry. So Yale has said there's a lot of stuff here. You can post it here if it's easier to read for a few paragraphs. Yeah, sure. Let's read this. Okay. So Yale, this is apparently Judaism's perspective on the afterlife. I'm fascinated to find out what this says. Let me put this over here. Okay. After death, the soul returns to its divine source, together with all the godliness it has extracted from the physical world by using it for meaningful purposes. The soul now relives its experience. Yes, the life review. That is in my video, and that is repeated in every single near-death experience is the life review, okay? And what is the key thing in the life review? In every life review, the people experience the emotions and thoughts of all the people affected by their life. So everything in our life is all about relationships. That's what it says. That's what the evidence tells us, that you need to follow the way of service. I mean, that's why I created it. That's why I love it. The soul now relives its experience on another plane and experiences the good it accomplished during its physical lifetime as incredible happiness and pleasure, and the negative as incredibly painful. Yeah, that's the life review, and it's been reported over and over by these near-death experiences. His pleasure and pain are not reward and punishment in the conventional sense, in the sense that we might punish a criminal by sending him to jail or reward a dedicated employee with a raise. It is rather that we experience our own life in its reality, a reality from which we were sheltered during our physical lifetimes. Oh, wow, fascinating. We experience the true import and effect of our actions. Turning up the volume on that TV set with that symphony orchestra can be intensely pleasurable or intensely painful, depending on how we played the music of our lives. Wow, that's such a cool way to put it. I love it. Yeah, so that's a big point that I made, and this is something that I think people struggle with because they're like, they don't want to be judged when they die, right? It's like, I'm going to experience my life, and all the good, it's like, great, I did some good, and I'm going to experience it. But all the bad, I have to relive the bad, and I'm going to be judged on it. It's like, you're actually not judged. And that's been repeated in these near-death experiences. You just experience it and as this says, such a great way to put it, it is rather that we experience our own life in its reality, a reality that we were sheltered during our physical lifetimes. And that reality is the effect that we had on other people. That's what these near-death experiences say. And this is the whole point of the video I just put out. I love that you're sharing this. The whole point is that everything's about relationships. And so whether you did something good or something bad, it's basically based on what ripple effect did it put out into the world. So if you do things, if you're just trying to make money, you're trying to get famous, you're trying to become number one, or, you're seeking hedonistic pleasures at the expense of your relationships. So yeah, don't do that, because when you die, you're going to remember that was not what that was about. And as I say in the video, it's like, now you got to go back and do it again because you screwed it up, Rackham Willie says that checks out with me, Yale. Totally. Yale says what you do in life does pay off after death. Totally, exactly what we've been talking about. Rackham Willie says there's a war in heaven that we contribute to. Yeah, I can't guess. I can't say I know what's going on in heaven, right? But I think that in those emerald tablets, and if you follow, like we're starting to discover the idea of the multiverse, and a lot of people believe that there's life on other planets. I believe that as well, and so basically, like whatever you can imagine reality is, it's infinitely more complex and amazing than what you can imagine, right? So I'm sure on some level of heaven there's struggle because nothing is static and everything is changing. And so, as I mentioned, Thoth in the Emerald Tablets, he kind of talks about like climbing this infinite mountain. He's like, you climb the infinite mountain, and every time you climb, you get a new vista. But then when you look at what you need to accomplish, you see that there's just infinite more to do, which I think is awesome. I wouldn't have existence any other way. Some people talk about heaven as this final place where you're going to go and you're just going to be with God, and it's over. Sounds like hell to me. I mean, if it never changes, nothing ever happens ever again, that sounds awful. Tell me if you agree or disagree. Let me know. Yale says it says you only judge yourself. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you only judge yourself. Yeah, I say that in the video. All these near-death experiences, they meet Jesus, or they meet their spirit guides. They meet their ancestors, and they're like, I love it. There's been 2 different near-death experiences. I've only watched like a few dozen. I haven't watched all of them, but the spirit guide will prepare them for the life review by saying this. It'll be like, let's see how that went. Or they'll be like, what'd you think of your life? It's just like so casual, just like, all right, let's see how that went, and like you go and you experience it, and apparently time is a different thing. So basically you can experience your whole life in like 2 seconds, and it's just like this emotional imprint, right? Somebody put the difference between like life in the physical realm and life in the spiritual realm is like you're at 50 amps here and you're at 100,000 amps in the spirit world, right? So it's just so much more going on. And I believe that we come to the physical world to limit ourselves so that we can have very specific experiences. Because in the spirit world, there's so much going on, there's so much to know and understand that it's harder, I think, to focus and to really experience things, and also to be like emotionally connected. This is why we forget our previous lives. This is why we can't remember being spirit, because if we did, we wouldn't be emotionally invested in our lives. And that is a key, vital part of living a good life, right? Bernardo says, that's similar to what Chris Bash said in his book, LSD and the Mind of the Universe. At the end, we go through what we've done and how we've affected everyone. He eventually saw himself and everyone as one. Totally. And I say that in my video, like we all are one, and this is confirmed from, LSD, DMT, I mean, mushrooms. There's people who are taking a lot of different drugs that get them to this similar place. And here you go. This is why those drugs work, I believe, and I've just made this connection in my head, but it's because that is our true nature. And so maybe the drug like shuts down the brain, or alters the brain such that all of a sudden we are free to experience our true nature, and that's why these people have these experiences, right? And that's why they're all confirmed to be the same. And to me, it's just like, I can't believe I didn't know this sooner. I'm 39, and I didn't know this until this past year, really. I mean, I kind of understood it in like a vague way, but like this is so important if you're going to live your life well, to understand this stuff. Rackham Willie says, I agree. Ding, ding. Yeah, Totally. All right, we got 20 minutes left. I've been riffing for 20 minutes and I haven't even gotten into all my books. I brought out this giant stack of books because I was like, oh my God, I don't know what to talk about. What am I going to say? Well, it's been good. Having a great time. We have 5 minutes. We have 5 viewers. I think that's a peak. We have 5 viewers and 3 likes. Hit the like button. I'm going to drink this and then I'm going to get into whatever you guys want to talk about, or I'll continue to tell you my story. Yeah. So this morning, I asked the I Ching. I asked it about the way of service because I'm feeling, I watched a video talking about YouTube, the YouTube algorithm, and the guy was kind of like, hey, YouTube, you could do a better job. And I totally agree. I know what he's talking about. As a brand new creator, I don't know what the algorithm's going to do. I don't know what it's doing. I don't know if it's already decided that I suck or that I'm good or whatever. But it actually gave me, I put out the short, and it gave me, how is your short performing compared to other ones? This is the first time it's done that because now I've released like maybe 8 shorts or something. So it has enough data to tell me how this short is doing. And it's like, this short's doing way worse. But then I look at the reach, right? How many people have even been shown the short, like in their feed? And it's like way lower. And that's on YouTube. So I have no control over that. And it just varies just so widely. I have no idea. I'm going to release something. They might not show it to anybody, or they might show it to hundreds, thousands of people. I think one of my, the Elements video actually got some views. It got like 600 views so far. And I think it has like 12,000 impressions. So it's like 12,000 people saw the thumbnail versus my other videos. They have a few hundred impressions. So I have no idea. I have no control over that. It's very frustrating. The I Ching was a great solace today, right? So what it told me enthusiasm. And I've gotten enthusiasm many, many times when I ask about the way of service, because I don't know if you can tell, I'm very enthusiastic and I'm kind of like riding that enthusiasm. Like I'm excited about it and I don't know what I'm doing. I'm brand new. I'm getting I get very few views. It's very frustrating, difficult, but just stick to your enthusiasm. And I won't read the whole thing because I've done that before, but I want to read this particular, let's see. Yeah, I'll just read these two. It says, proper enthusiasm opens every door. Improper enthusiasm is fueled by the desires of the ego. People often desire recognition, wealth, power, or freedom from difficulty. Such desires can become so great that we will do anything to achieve them. Our energy rises as we wildly pursue our goal, but this unruly and egotistical enthusiasm inevitably leads us into incorrect and imbalanced behavior and into misfortune. Proper enthusiasm, on the other hand, is fueled by a devotion to attaining and expressing inner balance and inner truth. When your aim is not to influence others or to satisfy your ego, but to follow the guidance of the higher power in all that you do, you acquire another kind of energy, a balanced and bottomless eagerness for living in step with what is right and good. In this, there is true power and true grace. So that was super helpful for me because I realized that I was desiring recognition, wealth, power, and freedom from difficulty. I was desiring recognition, but if I just keep doing the right thing, I believe I'll be successful. I believe that this channel will blow up. I believe that I will find the people that I can help. Go to wayofservice.com if you think I can help you. And yeah, I know that that's true. But it's difficult to remember that when you get the feedback in the immediate in your life. When I see the video I released had five views and 3 of them were me. So I know it's like I got 2 views from random people and they watched it for 4 minutes on average. 17 minutes long. Nobody got to the end. I feel like the end is the best part. But like I said, and it's going to be there for hopefully years and years. So in many years, hopefully we'll have many views, right? Yeah, I'll read. Let me finish telling you a little bit about what I got. So I got enthusiasm, and as you just heard that, and then I got enthusiasm changing into modesty, and it's so perfect. It's like be enthusiastic, but be modest, be humble. Stay humble. As I say in the elements video, if you're gonna embody the element of earth, you have to stay grounded. And to stay grounded is to know that you can't skip steps. So I can't start my YouTube video or my YouTube channel and immediately have 1 million views. Like that's just not how it works. I have to follow the process. And this was actually an epiphany I had today. Earthly knowledge and understanding is just as valuable as spiritual insight, right? We put one above the other, and maybe on some level there is a one above the other, but they come from the same place. All things are one. And so, sometimes I'm like, man, I'm like learning how to be a good YouTuber. I'd rather be studying philosophy. I'd rather be continuing to read and all these things. And there's a time and a place for that. But one is not better than the other, especially when I am trying to do well on YouTube. I'm trying to spread good ideas. So that was a realization I had today. All right. Was there a quote I want to make sure I cover this before I move on. Oh, yeah. There's such a good. Okay. The first paragraph, I'll just read this one. So, modesty. The creative, and that's the word. That's the I Ching's word for like pure yang energy. The creative acts to empty what is full and to offer abundance to what is modest. This hexagram suggests that a deepening of one's modesty now is a sure means of improving the situation. There is no power so great as modesty for compelling the assistance of the sage. That's what the I Ching calls itself. Nor one so hindering as immodesty. And here's like such a good quote right here. Those in high places who retain their modesty are loved by all and continually prosper. Those below who cultivate modesty inevitably rise on the strength of their merits without making enemies along the way. So it's like, no matter what your position, you should be modest, even if you're in the highest position. The only way you can stay in a high position is by staying modest and humble and having, following the way of service. I said in another video, the higher that we ascend, the more dangerous the way of ego becomes, because we can do so much more damage to ourselves and others. So I wanted to share that. Now I'll get back to the chat. We've got 12 minutes left. Okay. Super interesting channel. Okay, Yale says, have you thought about starting Discord for Way of Service? Yes, and I have a Discord already, but nobody's in it. So, but I actually wanted to figure out how to take Discord calls on these live streams. So that's something I'm kind of trying to figure out. I haven't really figured it out yet. And to be honest with you, since I started this whole project, I've been kind of consumed by creating YouTube videos. And maybe what I need to do is to kind of take a step back and see, is creating YouTube videos the very best way to do this? Or are there other things that I'm kind of neglecting that I should also bring online, like a Discord? Yale says, where people can share ideas and such. Yeah, totally. I have it, and I will invite you ASAP. Bracken Willie says, I'm super interested in your YouTube channel journey. Yeah, I realize that that's another thing I should be sharing is, what's going on with my YouTube channel journey. And maybe I should make a video about it. I don't know. It might be fun to share what I've learned in a short period. I've learned a lot. And it's pretty fun. It's interesting. Like I complained about the algorithm earlier because it's like, I don't know if it's going to give me views or not, but the algorithm is really, I hope and I think that the people who design the algorithm are really doing their best to make it good for all the people, which is to say, giving you the thing that you actually want to listen to, the thing that you're not going to click off of because you want to hear everything that the person has to say, and the algorithm like very quickly adapts to that. So that's something I've been learning about, and I think it's really interesting. Yale says, I think it's the thumbnail on that one. I'm not sure what you're referring to. Bernardo says, learning so much today, never heard of the I Ching. Awesome. I love the I Ching. And the I Ching is like the basis of Taoist philosophy, right? So Lao Tzu, I think he's like 500 BC, but the I Ching is from like 1100 BC or 2000 BC or something. It's been around for longer. Yale says, Bernardo is pretty awesome. It's pretty awesome, referring to the I Ching. Yale says, solid wisdom. You can desire recognition if it's with good intent, I think. Yeah, right. Yeah, I want recognition as in like I want to do the right thing. I want to spread the ideas. But the second it becomes about me, like it's like, oh, I'm not being recognized and like my efforts are no good. It's like, what was a quote I heard? I think it was yesterday. It's like, it's amazing how much good you can accomplish if you don't care who gets the credit, right? That's so powerful. And it's something I need to remember. Like, it doesn't matter if somebody watches my video or somebody else's video, so long as they're helped the way that they need to be helped. But I want my video. I want people to be like, oh yeah, that way of service, Danny on the way of service, he's the best, and that's like ego, right? Yale says, you want to spread your message, so why is that wrong if it's not just to feed ego? The problem is that your ego gets in there, it's like your ego's there all the time. So, and your ego gets hurt. That's what happened to me this morning. I'm like, my ego hurts. Like I hurt. It sucks. I'm sad. I just put all this effort into this video and it has one view, and like, it's like not happening. But it's like, no, take a deep breath. You'll be fine. Things happen for a reason. Things happen in time. You have to have patience. You have to have modesty. You have to have humility, and all these things. Eleanor says, Danny talks about getting recognition for the purpose of spreading your gift and service and not for your ego. Right, that's what I just said, yeah. Rackham Willie says, we need more with righteous intentions getting the recognition. So I agree. Yeah, I mean, that is part of it. I think it's like, but this is a danger of trying to do the right thing, is that you start to become self-righteous, right? But yeah, I mean, I've said this in my videos, and it's hard to avoid the conclusion that there's a lot of stuff that sucks in the world needs to change, right? Like there's a lot of like, go on YouTube, and that's another thing I've learned about being in YouTube, and that's why like video editing, I've put a lot of time into it, but it takes a lot of time. It's kind of like it's not fun because it's like, oh, where do I put the jump cut, and do I zoom in here or whatever? But you do those things because people are so used to being entertained. If they're not being entertained by your material, they just turn it off. And part of it is like, that's bad, maybe we should change it. But another part of it is like, that's reality. So you got to adapt to the reality and maybe embrace the fact that entertainment has an important role in our lives. I think our lives should be fun. I think we should. I don't think being entertained is wrong. I don't think seeking entertainment is wrong. It's just, if you do it to the exclusion of doing the right thing, then it's wrong, right? Yeah. Breckin Willie says, you're up to 9 views, bro. Nice. Yeah, so I think now 4 people have watched it. Wait, I think what was it? I had like 4 views were me. So 5 people have watched it. Okay. Yeah, I'm not going to get upset about it. I know that all things will come in time, and hopefully all the people who are going to watch it are watching the live stream. Bernardo Anderson says, the Bhagavad Gita even says, quote, you have the right to perform your prescribed duty, but you are not entitled to the fruits of action. Yeah, I haven't gotten much into the Bhagavad Gita, but I really, really want to. I really do want to. Rackham Willie says, that's what the law is for biblically. That is what the law is for. So you're saying the law is to help people with righteous intentions get recognition? I'm not sure what you're referring to when you say that is what is that the law is for? Rackham Willie says, as well as many purposes I don't know yet. Yeah. Yeah, maybe we can clarify that. But But yeah, I'm glad that that quote resonates, and I think maybe that's and I wrote that down as a note. Like I have this long list of notes of topics I want to talk about for the way of service. But I mean, I feel like I could do a whole video on that quote of, "It's amazing how much good you can accomplish if you don't care who gets the credit." Right? You know, as soon as we try to get the credit, that's when things stop really working. You know, everything grinds to a halt. That's what I think of when I think of falling into our ego. It's like everything grinds to a halt. Now you're like stuck. You're stuck like Satan, stuck in the seventh realm of hell in the ice. If you've ever read Dante's Inferno, it's like he's so filled with ego that he's just encased in ice, just eternally feeling angry and ego full of like whatever it is, you know, as opposed to the opposite of that is like letting go of everything, letting go of expectations. And as Lao Tzu says, achieving absolute joy and freedom forever. Right? The only way to do that, though, is to let go of the ego. I was talking about keeping from getting self-righteousness. So the law is for keeping from getting self-righteousness. Is that what you mean? All right, we got 4 minutes left. We got 2 viewers, 4 likes. That's the most likes I've gotten live for sure. Let's see. You know, I haven't opened this book in a really long time. And I was inspired to grab it. So I'm going to turn to a random page and see what it says. Ready? Each and every master, regardless of the era or place, heard the call and attained harmony with heaven and earth. There are many paths leading to the peak of Mount Fuji, but the goal is the same. There are many methods of reaching the top, and they all bring us to the heights. There is no need to battle with each other. We are all brothers and sisters who should walk the path together, hand in hand. Keep to your path, and nothing else will matter. When you lose your desire for things that do not matter, you will be free. Yeah, I feel like that's kind of what we're talking about. Pretty perfect. Ah, man, I gotta turn off this 4 p.m. Shoot. There we go. Okay, sorry about that. I guess I did say I'd quit at 4 and I started late. So I'm going to give the full hour and a half. Okay. I don't want to cut it too short. But I want to mention that this book is written by Morihei Ueshiba, and he is the founder of Aikido martial arts. I don't know if you've ever heard of that, but it's a very specific type of martial arts where you try not to hurt the other person. So basically, someone tries to punch you and you just push them away gently, right? Really cool. I've taken a few classes on it, and he wrote this book, and it is fantastic. Art of Peace. All right, we're going to go for 2 more minutes. No more comments. Okay. Like and subscribe. Check out my other videos. You know, I've done videos on a variety of things. I introduced the way of service. I did my work hard video where I outlined my framework for following the way of service. There's 5 steps. Okay. Knowing yourself, knowing reality, serving yourself, serving others, and overcoming difficulty. My other video after that, I did the elements video and that was my take on serving yourself, which is really to take care of yourself. And I'm always thinking I need to put serving yourself as step 1, because if you don't take care of yourself, you can't do any of the other steps. You can't even know yourself. So take care of yourself, and then you can know yourself, and then you can know reality, and then you can help others. Got 1 more minute. And then so I did the work hard video. I did the elements video, and I love the elements. I don't know what it is about them. They fascinate me. You know, maybe it's because I love the esoteric and I love magic. And it's like, if we're, you know, in spirit, and spirit's in there, it's the 5th element, but there's also a secret identity of the 5th element, which you'll find out if you watch my video. And then there's fire, water, earth, and air. And then I just put out my video last night, and that's part of knowing reality, which is this is what we can learn about the afterlife, and what can the afterlife tell us about how we should live our life. All right, Yale says, more for fun, but have you read or know anything by Miyamoto Musashi? I do not. I do not. Yale says this was super fun. Looking forward to the next live. Great. I'm so glad to hear it. It's fun for me too, and it's way more fun when I have people to interact with. So here we are. It's been an hour and a half, and I think that's it for today. Thank you for joining me. I love you guys, and I will see you next week.